Well, guys, as we get closer to Christmas, I wanted to ask, what Christmas traditions do you have? And what memories have stuck with you most over the years?
It's just very simple. We don't try and do a lot. We have continued. So my sister's in Virginia, and my other sister is in North Carolina, but both of them will be down here. And when my sister got married this past summer, she made a point to Caleb, who she got married to, and said, "We can go wherever you want to for Thanksgiving, but we're not going anywhere but my parents' place for Christmas." She said, "Anything else, 4th of July, New Year's, Thanksgiving, Halloween, I don't care. Christmas, we go to my parents' house." And so that, in combination with everyone else being around and making a purpose to be around, it is just showing up and being with each other. And we go and open stockings first. You don't open presents until you open stockings. So you get all the trinkets and the chocolates and everything first, and you fill yourself up, and then you move on to presents, and then we just hang out, and it's pretty smooth transition from there. You go to grandma's, we get there before everybody else gets there, and we open gifts from grandma, and then everyone else gets there, and we have our toys hidden away so that other kids don't feel jealous, and we have dinner with the rest of our family.
Well, my family has a lot of traditions, so I won't go through them all, but one of my favorites is probably the on Christmas Eve, the entire family is gathered in our family room, and one of the men of the family reads the nativity story, the coming of Jesus, and then we have a candlelight service, and we bring in Christmas Day with that candlelight service and the foreshadowing of Easter and what is to come and how Jesus is the light of the world and we are to be the lights to the world.
To it, I've got some Christmas memories I enjoy, and I still enjoy putting up the Christmas tree to this day. Going back to childhood, I love the Christmas trees at church, where you had the big old fluffy like styrofoam crosses that you put on there, instead of the holly jolly red and gold balls and stuff. I don't know why we did that instead, but I guess it's more religious probably. But really, the most special part about Christmas time to me is when my parents gave us, I have a sister, and we were given money from our parents at a very young age and told to buy gifts for other people, not just in the family, but outside the family, and give them to those people. In a sign of charity, like trying to remember what the whole holiday season is about. In a way, that's not about getting, or receiving, but it's about giving instead. So, and I've always enjoyed that. So even to this day, I still look for ways I can give around this time of year.
Our Christmas tradition has always been, and so there's a lot of reason behind this, and I won't go into that backstory, but we exchanged gifts on Christmas Eve. Now we would do like Santa gifts that next morning. But within the family, we would exchange gifts Christmas Eve. And so one of the things that my grandmother used to do, and then my mom would do, was we would always get a fresh set of very comfortable pajamas every year at Christmas. So we would get these pajamas, we would exchange the gifts after dinner, and we'd get our pajamas. And then we would all dress up in our pajamas, and then much like you, Rob, we would go to our church, have a Christmas Eve service where we would take communion as a family in our PJs, and then we would go home. And then as a kid, and when I lived with my cousins and much larger family, we all lived in kind of the same house, we would all pile into my older sister's room. She was the oldest out of all of us kids and the cousins and everything. So we would all pile into my sister's room. We'd make a big pallet in there, and we'd all sleep on the floor. And we wouldn't actually sleep, it'd be like 3 o'clock before we actually got to bed. But then the next morning we'd wake up, we'd have our Santa gifts, and while that was happening, my dad would be in the kitchen making omelets. And so we'd sit out in the living room all day, just eating breakfast food, still in our PJs from the night before, all day, playing with whatever toys we got and eating omelets and leftovers. So that's always been a tradition for our house. Obviously, it's changed over the years, but it's kind of how we did things.
Well, a tradition I have always had ever since I can remember, and it's kind of hard to do now that I don't live so close to my family, but the last year or two, they have actually video called us in. So my grandparents have this old little farm church that we would grow up going to, and it is out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, really, it is one of those country churches that everybody drives to and nobody really lives next to. And what we would do on Christmas Eve, we would go out to my grandparents' house, their farmhouse, my whole family. And when I say my whole family, I mean my cousins, I mean full house. We would have a dinner with these kind of bread bowls. You cut a bowl out of a piece of bread, and then you put your soup in it, and you kind of eat the bowl as you eat the soup. But then we would all, at around a certain time of night, we would all pack up in the car, go down to the church, and of course let ourselves in because grandparents had a key. And this church had always been careful to lay out communion for us. And we would go in and we would sing Christmas hymns, Christmas carols, just have a really great time. And then we would read Luke 2 and have communion as a family. And we would celebrate communion at Christmas, celebrating his death and his resurrection at his coming. And as a family, that I didn't realize what that would mean to me growing up, but then I realized, oh, that is why we do it. And so I've always had this in the back of my mind that Christmas is about something greater. And that's because my family has every year made that a priority.